right, guys, welcome into another edition of the Daytona Motor Mouse. I'm Ryan Pritt. That's Ken Willis, and we need to ask Ken the question. With Spruce Creek winning its 29th boys weightlifting state title, how many of those were you a part of, and how much credit do you take for the program's success, Ken?
Does it count if I knew some of the guys who were on their first weightlifting championship team?
I'll allow it, yeah.
Then I was a part of a couple.
All right. Well, obviously,
jerk and clean and jerk.
We're gonna leave that one alone. That sounds like a great time to get off of this topic. While we're getting away from clean and jerk, we'll go to Martinsville, where I don't know, man. We're running out of options here. Denny Hamlin gave a depressing press or little press conference after the race, and he was pretty spot on, man. I thought this is the new NASCAR where no one passes anybody, and I don't know. We talked before we went on air about how much I watched, how much you watched, and of course golf threatening to take away viewership. So sum up your thoughts on another Sunday at Martinsville that just doesn't look like the old Martinsville, right?
Well, I mean, it looked to me, I thought for sure it looked like it was Jordan Spieth's race to win, and then he oh, wait a minute, hold on a minute. Jordan Spieth, Matthew Fitzpatrick. All right, no, Martinsville. Ryan Preece, not Jordan Spieth. How funny that he out of nowhere wins a pole, and Stewart Haas Racing somehow finds its legs, and Preece. You talk about track position being key. He started up front and he'd still be there right now if it wasn't for speeding on pit road. So that was interesting, and like I said, they'll find a fix for it, but in finding a fix, something else is going to have to give elsewhere, and that'll probably irritate people. So one thing is a constant is belly aching is pretty much almost a constant, no matter which way the winds are blowing in a competitive sense.
Yeah, and you know, an example to the track position thing you're talking about. I mean, he wins the pole. He leads all of the first how many ever laps were in stage one, right?
80, I think.
Yeah, 80, I think. Gets sent to the back with a pit road speeding penalty at that point and finishes 15th. And it took that long to get there, 320 laps, give or take, to get to 15th. When the best car on the racetrack seemingly can't pass anybody, then that's a problem, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I don't know what the fix is. I did notice that Denny says, I don't know if it's the package, meaning, the aero downforce horsepower package, or the tires. So he's holding out hope that it could be Goodyear's fault. So, and everybody, a lot of people like to point this way whenever things like this happen. So again, they will keep searching until they find an answer. And if they find something over here, it's going to create a problem over here for somebody else. And you're always going to have somebody's going to be happy and somebody's not. So, and for Denny, I mean, my God, 4th place, he had a couple of 6th places this year, but he's been running 15th and deeper much of the year. So, I guess he could have been a little more irritated than he was, I guess. But 4th, good Lord, they're throwing a parade for him, I think.
Well, that's been a theme too. This was another race where some late race cautions mixed up the field. You mentioned Hamlin showing up at 4th, and Joey Logano finishing 2nd. Obviously took advantage of it most, but right behind him was Martin Truex. If you look at the first 2 stages, those guys are nowhere to be found. Blaney ends up with a top 10. Ricky Stenhouse gets a top 10. By the way, that's 2 or 3 in a row for him. He's running pretty well lately. We need to give a hat tip to Rick here.
And now he's going to a track where he loves, the plate races. And
he'll be
conversely, Kevin Harvick, who was, because he was one of my picks, and I like to cast a wide net when I'm making my picks, but he was one of them, damn it. And he was threatening. He's top 4, top 5, getting fairly late in the day, and ends up 20th or 22nd.
Well, and
he had a wheel break, so he's got a legitimate excuse.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to my point, though. For every Logano, Truex, and Stenhouse that showed up late was a guy that faded late. And you mentioned Harvick 20th, Preece 15th, Daniel Suarez, who was top 5 of a lot of the race, 17th, Tyler Reddick 22nd. I don't know what happened to William Byron. After practice, I thought that guy was the guy to beat. He finished as 23rd and was just a no-show all day. And then Brad Keselowski, 24th. Yeah, Kozlowski 24th, and he ran up front for a lot of it. So I don't know. It seems one of the things that we got emailed to us last week with our poll was it seems like the first 2/3 of the race sometimes is meaningless because of the late cautions and shuffling up. It has become a trend, though. It's something we see every week, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're meaningless though. I don't think you could call it the NOCO 400 and just run, 100 laps. So they're, they got concessions, they got beer to sell and hot dogs to sell. Uh, I don't know where I don't know what the answer is. I just know that there's always throughout history there's always been an answer, and then that answer has created more questions, and it's just the way it goes. And there have been lulls in competition before, and they somehow or another they don't just sort themselves out. Somebody has to sort it out and come up with something. And and you can one thing for sure, they're not just doing this and say, all right, that's on the Talladega. I mean, they know what the deal is, and the competition people will get together at the R&D shop, and they are working on it as we speak, and they will try to figure out something because there's a lot of people's, you know, there are a lot of reputations and perhaps jobs are on the line to, make sure they get things like this right. And, somehow or another, though, if they don't get it right, they'll never get it right because there's always somebody that's irritated, but they'll at least get it better sooner or later.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner.
Yeah. Like I said, when Martinsville's broken, man, it's a little head scratching. That was the track I thought could never be broken, and it is. But we'll
Well,
move on, and obviously we'll hope for an exciting one at Talladega here. Just kind of funny. I bring up driver averages over the last 6 races, and Kaz Grala is number one, John Hunter Nemechek's number 2, and Anthony Alfredo's number 5. That tells you anything. Now, obviously, Grala ran 1, and the other 2 ran 2 races. So among the guys that have run all 6 of the last 6, Eric Jones with the best average finish. And boy, talk about a guy that would need one. He's one.
Eric who?
Yeah, exactly. Him and Noah have been off to a rough start this year. But I guess we look back at Daytona for a little bit of some clue as to what to expect, right? And the Fords were real fast and real strong, and then a Chevy won the race, which has pretty much been the summary of the year, right?
Well, by about 18 inches. He was about 18 inches ahead of Logano when the yellow came out. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to slap an
Who are we
asterisk.
looking at? Who are we looking at this Sunday?
I think a little. Logano's probably. He's going to probably be good, but it depends on who survives and who gets there. I kind of halfway. I'm always pulling for Chastain, but I hate for him to go much longer without getting a win based on what he did last year. Uh, yeah, Keselowski. I think you've mentioned this. We were talking earlier. He's needs one. He wants one, and boy, his whole career he's been so good at Talladega that if he's anywhere close on setup and horsepower and whatnot, I mean, he knows he can sniff his way around there. So, I am I gonna take away your pick if I say Keselowski?
I was gonna say, yeah, somebody's been looking at my picks this morning, stepping all over my right toe's broken here, Ken. Come
All
on.
right, well, in my defense, I had forgotten that I looked at it. So.
No, I mentioned Brad earlier in the disappointing finish. If you look at finishing 24th after running in the top 10 for a good part of that race Sunday, if you look back at this year, his finishes do not depict how good he's been. And just
Right.
about everywhere we've been, he's been really competitive in that car. Like you said, what's he got? 6, 7 wins, Talladega all time.
Yeah.
I just think it's Tom, man.
Well,
He
you know
can't
what?
have that
All
much
right,
of
then
bad luck. Yeah.
I'll let you have Kez, and I'll go out on a way out on a limb there and go with Chase Elliott.
By the way, Chase doing some good work Sunday, man. I know he rallied back for a top 10, but to drive that race of all races with a broken leg, either that race or a road course, that was crazy. So
There must have been some
um,
contractual obligations there in Martinsville that we don't know about. But yeah, I tell you what, whenever things are really gloomy, something good happens. So if you're thinking like NASCAR, it's kind of gloomy right now after Martinsville. What they need is a Chase Elliott victory, and don't be surprised.
there you go. I'll say keep an eye on Eric Almirola too. Showed some good momentum Sunday. I like him coming into Talladega too. But with that, we're going to sign off here. I'm Ryan Pritt, and that's Spruce Creek weightlifting motivator Ken Willis. You didn't go in there and give a speech, did you, before that one?
No, that's why they won. I steered clear.
There you go. And we will see you next week. Thanks, guys.